Toby and John, good to see you both. Welcome to Popternative.
It's great to be here. Nice to see you too.
You know, what a ride this was. This was I can't wait for people to see this on Shudder on the 23rd. I mean, I want to talk to both of you about this, but Toby, we'll start with you. I mean, there's a trifecta here that I loved, right? It's creepy, it's scary, it's funny. Is there one of those that kind of stands out a little bit while you're making it, or do all of them kind of work together and overpower each other? I'm curious about that.
Fun question. I think I'll always go for the creep. I love that are creepy, that I don't quite, you haven't quite reached the punctuation yet.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, for me, it was the humor. We laughed so much on this set. There was so many fun things that happened. Some very funny things were so funny that they actually didn't make the film. So no, yeah, for me, this was a really fun time for us to have humor.
Well, it's funny because some of the gore, you're watching it and it's like, you laugh, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
it just kind of keeps going and going. So it kind of plays with your head a little bit too, in a little ways, which is always fun, right?
Thank you. That is really nice of you to say, because that's what we wanted. Like, we have a dark sense of humor, and this was a nice way to bring our sense of humor to gore.
Absolutely. So much happens before you go to camera on Hellhole. And I want to kind of ask you both this question because, there's preparation, figuring something out, the props, I can't even imagine, the effects, the costumes, and everything, the makeup. So in a lot of ways, from a storytelling perspective, Toby, you could see it as two journeys, right? Before filming Hellhole and after filming Hellhole. Or do you see it as one big journey with multiple steps? I'm curious about that.
Cool question, because normally the way we work, it's a really long journey. In this case, we had to kind of, there were some rules that we're not used to having. And so just stepping into a school of rules is a little different when you're rule breakers, you know? So I would say it was everything was kind of there. Sometimes stuff happens on the spot that you got to deal with, but we like that. I think it's just it was a process that we had to stick to, but in a way that kind of amped up the intensity.
John, to add to that, I feel like a lot of people don't realize, especially in indie films where you're really kind of doing a lot of things, it's basically like you're creating art, but it's troubleshooting and problem solving at the same time. Do you think about that a lot?
That is so, obviously you're a filmmaker, because every single frame is troubleshooting how to make that frame look authentic.
Yeah.
And yes, and that's really what's fun about it. And I'm sure that's what's fun about you being a filmmaker, is that you get to look at what you want the audience to feel, and you have to figure out how to get that in a frame. And you're constantly just pulling rabbits out of hats, trying to make it work. And it's a lot of fun. I love that process.
One of the things is horror movies have been around for a while, especially the campy ones, the gory ones, the ones from the 80s. We always love watching them. I mean, it's an incredible time for horror movies right now. It's really exciting for the genre. Toby, what is that like, working in a genre right now where they've always been around, but there is a big surge in appetite and excitement around the genre? What's that like for you specifically from a filmmaking perspective?
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
The fun of horror is never going to die. And right now, especially as more people have access to it, because you don't have to be, someone, high in the castle in LA. There's so many opportunities, and people like us who are such a tiny outfit, we can then play. Often, if we're lucky, we get to play within the same sandbox and streaming services as these big heavy hitters. So it's wonderful. There are a lot of amazing women making horror right now, and I welcome all of it.
Absolutely. And shout out to Shudder. I mean, I just love Shudder so much. I'm so happy that your film is going to be on Shudder. I mean, it's the horror movie fan playground, basically. Everything they put out is just the best.
It really is. They cultivate such a great audience. I mean, the horror crowd in general is just open-minded and very inviting, and it's a great community to be a part of. And Shudder really knows how to cultivate all that goodwill and great spirit.
What are those conversations like? I'm just throwing this out there, however you can kind of chime in, but given it's silly, it's creepy, when people see it, it's like, oh my goodness. I can't even imagine, what are those conversations like with your actors? Is it just kind of have fun? I'm just curious.
Actually, no, it was we were like, this is ridiculous. Like what's about to happen to you is completely ridiculous, but pretend that it's not. Like pretend that you're actually doing like a very serious movie. And they were really cool about that. Like our actors, our Serbian actors and our American actor were so generous to us to like not nod and wink about everything.
Yeah.
It was serious fun.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to believe it, take it seriously, and then it's even more fun.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of last question here as well. I mean, you know, maybe you think about this a little bit more now, right? Like the movie's coming out, people are going to be able to see it, but the longevity, right, of these films, like a movie like Hellhole can be part of like, you know, those spooky season horror movie marathons, right? Where people put out a bunch of like monster films and everything. Do you think about that when you're writing it? Do you think about that when you're making it? Or is that kind of something that happens a little like post-release? Like I'm curious about, because I would think about that too when I was writing something. Like I want people to watch this all the time for marathons.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's such a great question.
For me, no, I never thought about it, but I think
Now
about
you're
it
thinking
when
about it.
In retrospect.
like because you know, a lot of time when you make a movie, as you would know, you think you know what you made, but you don't know what you made until you sit in and watch it with an audience. And so we've watched it now with 2 audiences, and now I'm starting to be like, oh, okay. I get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. August 23rd, Hellhole is going to be streaming on Shudder, so I can't wait for everyone to see it. Toby John, so great chatting with both of you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
You're awesome. Thank you so much for inviting us today.
Of course, appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.